Time for the main event. We got Deiveson Figueiredo defending his title for the second time in a month, pretty much. It was maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago that he defeated Alex Perez. He's going up against Brandon Moreno, and luckily for them, well, not luckily, maybe I guess it's a good thing for both guys that they get this quick of a turnaround after relatively short fights last time around. I believe this was actually supposed to be headlined by Piotr Jan and Aljo. That fight gets pushed back, and now we get this fight, kind of just taking its spot. So we got minus 300 on Deiveson Figueiredo, plus 250 on Brandon Moreno. Figueiredo did open up at minus 265, got down to minus 290, got down to minus 310, and now minus 300. I think that's roughly where it's going to stay. I think we see a ton of people go out there and parlay the God of War here, and I completely understand why. So let's actually start off with him. I did ever so slightly fade Figueiredo last time around with Alex Perez, as I believe that Alex Perez's wrestling was going to be a very big factor in that fight, getting Deiveson down and kind of controlling him, sucking the wind out of him, and just accumulating solid top control. But Deiveson, man, one of the things I said in that breakdown is he has a very nasty guillotine, especially when fighters are going for the takedown. So the fact that Perez wasn't really privy to that, and I know it was a bit of a weird exchange that kind of led to that guillotine choke being slapped on, but man, you can't leave your neck open in the slightest around Figueiredo, because that guy has a mean squeeze, especially with the fight being as early as it was. You know, the fight ended just under 2 minutes into that first round, so he was still very fresh, he was still very strong, so obviously he was going to be able to get the majority of his energy into that choke, and that's exactly what happened, and Perez was forced to tap. So you know, what we're used to seeing from Deiveson is exactly what happened in that fight. You know, Perez did land a couple good shots on him, I will say that, but Figueiredo, once he started to put his foot on the gas, he really started to go for it, and that's eventually when the finish came there. We know what his style is. You know, he has a ton of power in his hands. He's always moving forward. There's been question marks about his cardio. It held up in the Pantoja fight. In the third round of the Juicy Formiga fight, we saw him kind of having his foot on the gas as well, and kind of just marching down Formiga and getting. He ended up losing that fight, but it definitely showed, you know, kind of the a different side to what everybody has been saying about Figueiredo's cardio. Now, since that Formiga loss, he has 5 straight wins, 2 of them being over Joseph Benavidez, and obviously capturing the flyweight title in that amount of time. And I think I got to stop fading the guy. And I think Moreno, you know, he brings some very interesting skills into this fight and different looks that I think might throw Figueiredo off a little bit. But ultimately, I still think that Figueiredo should be able to put away Moreno here. So let's go over the the assassin baby, who since coming back to the UFC has gone, what is it? 3-0-1. He has 1 draw in there, which should definitely be a win over Askar Askarov. I had a lot of money on Askarov that night, and luckily for me, the judges screwed that one up, and they ended up calling it a draw. So that was a fight that I definitely think that Moreno deserved to win. And then after that, he follows that up with a beautiful performance against Kai Kara France. A lot of people didn't think that you know, Moreno would be able to outstrike Kara, and he did. You know, he brings this weird unorthodox boxing style to the game now, where he kind of keeps his hands low. He has a piston of a jab now, and he moves in and out very well. His movement alone, his footwork and all that is very much improved since we had originally seen him in the UFC after the Ultimate Fighter, and he continues to make improvements. Like, he goes out there, beats Jussier Formiga, even after getting into some sticky situations. And then the Brandon Royval fight, you know, we did see Royval land a couple of big shots on him, but ultimately it was a shoulder injury that kind of wrapped it up for Brandon Royval there. Even when you watch that final exchange again, you kind of hear Royval let out a bit of a scream, or a bit of a, you know, noise of pain, whatever the fuck you want to call it. And you see Moreno kind of immediately look up at the referee, and then he just starts wailing on his face. He goes, "Okay, this fight's going to be stopped." So he does it, and with 1 second left, the referee calls the fight there. I wonder how different it would have been if, you know, Royval was able to go back into his corner and get Mark Montoya to kind of just readjust that shoulder, just as he did, and I'm sure Royval would have been good to go once again. But unfortunate end to a very anticipated fight there. Royval, I'm sure he'll be back soon, but luckily for Moreno, he doesn't, get much damage in that fight, and he's able to return pretty quickly after that. So, yeah, again, good jiu-jitsu from Moreno, improved striking, improved confidence as well too, which I believe is very, very important for his game. But I just don't know how he's going to fare against Figueiredo here, who is, going to be countering him. I think he might be quicker to the punch too, which might really throw off Moreno. Moreno is going to have to keep his hands up more than he does. I know, usually you want to stick to your guns in terms of what brought you to the dance, but you got to make some sort of adjustments when you're fighting a high level champion like Deiveson at this point in time. And now I might get a little bit of flack for not backing Moreno when I backed Perez, but I just feel like Perez had the better chops in terms of getting the fight to the ground. Whereas Moreno, he's more of a guy that kind of just likes to hop on the back or pull guard or something like that. That's the type of takedowns that this guy gets. Whereas Deiveson, I think if he is faced with that type of takedown attempt, he's pretty good at exploding out of these bad situations. And I think he'd be strong enough to kind of get Moreno off of him if he does end up hopping on his back or something like that. So I do like Deiveson here. The line is a little bit too wide for me still. I'm not sure when we're going to get Deiveson at proper betting odds once again. I still need to see who he's going to fight. There's a lot of guys that maybe not a lot of guys. There are a select few of guys that I would choose to probably fade Figueiredo with. Moreno just for some reason doesn't make the cut for me anymore. I'm not sure. I'm not entirely sure why. This fight, all in all, is probably a stay away for me. I would say Figueiredo wins. They set the over under at 2.5, which I find to be intriguing. If they had it at 1.5, I would definitely probably take the over there. I think Moreno's movement and just his style of fighting could potentially push this over 1.5. However, at the 2.5 mark, I think that's a point where the fighters really start to get comfortable, and we might see more crisp strikes, well timed counters or something like that. That's where I start to get a little bit iffy. But again, this could still go under 2.5 too. I'm very much concerned. If I were to take a side here, fight doesn't go to decision at -230, you get that full 25 minutes. I think that's a solid spot if you're looking for a prop to bet here. And even Figueiredo inside the distance, -130 makes a little bit of sense. Yeah, I do like Figueiredo here. I think he'll have the crisper striking. I think he'll be able to counter Moreno. That's been one of Moreno's kind of downfalls with this new style that he has. He's very aggressive. His hands are down, though. That's the kind of issue that I don't like here. He does leave himself to get countered a lot, and you don't want to get countered by Figueiredo. So I'm intrigued to see what kind of game plan that Moreno does come in here with. Is it going to be more grapple heavy? Is he going to be just jumping, guillotine, or is he going to be trying to hop on the back, pulling guard, whatever it is? I think he's going to have some trouble with Figueiredo, who just continues to show that he's just on another level compared to these guys at this point in time. So I don't think Moreno has the wrestling chops to get this fight to the ground where it could be potentially more comfortable with him with his jiu-jitsu. Unfortunately, he's going to have to keep this fight on the feet, and that's where I think that Figueiredo will have a bit of an advantage in terms of just countering properly and landing the bigger shots. So I'll go with Figueiredo. I think he eventually gets the knockout, probably second or third round. But yeah, this should be a fun fight. It's definitely a fun fight, definitely something that I'm looking forward to, and I'm hoping that it's a little bit more competitive than what we saw out of Alex Perez last time. And I believe that Moreno is a warrior. He's a guy that's going to go out on his shield, and he'll give us a solid performance. So should be a fun fight. I may stay away from it. Maybe Figueiredo inside the distance at -130, but I fully expect that to get steamed once we see the limits start to open up. But I'll still go with Figueiredo to win this fight, either second or third round, TKO or KO.